The observation post hung silently at the edge of the Sol system. For hundreds of years, it had watched Earth from afar. Inside the small station, Commander Tak sat at his control panel. His three-fingered hands moved quickly across the glowing surface. Suddenly, an alert flashed red on his screen. Tak's yellow eyes widened as he read the message again and again. "Impossible," he whispered, his scaled skin turning a pale blue with shock. A human ship had broken through the barrier. The invisible wall that had kept humans trapped in their solar system for over 400 years had failed. This had never happened before. Tak pressed a button on his console. "Central Command, we have an emergency. The humans have escaped." The voice that answered was calm but tense. "Verify and report details." Tak sent the data showing the human vessel's path. The quantum readings were clear. They had somehow punched a hole in reality itself. How could they develop such technology? Tak muttered to himself as he waited for orders. The Galactic Council had been certain humans were too primitive to discover quantum travel for at least another century. On the small human ship called Pathfinder, Captain Hannah Kim stared at the stars through the main viewport. They looked different somehow. The patterns were wrong. "Status report," she called to her crew of 5. Officer Sue looked up from his instruments. "Captain, something strange happened during the test jump. The quantum entanglement readings are off the charts." Hannah nodded. The Pathfinder was Earth's first attempt at faster-than-light travel. They had expected to move perhaps a few light minutes, but this was something else entirely. "Where are we?" she asked. The science officer, Dr. Min, checked her readings. "Based on stellar positions, we're in the Proxima Centauri system. But that's impossible." She looked up with wonder in her eyes. "We've traveled over 4 light years in an instant." Hannah felt a mixture of pride and fear. Their test had worked better than anyone could have imagined. The quantum entanglement drive had been theoretical until now. Earth scientists had developed it after discovering strange particles that seemed to exist in 2 places at once. "Captain," called June from the sensor station, "I'm detecting artificial structures ahead. Large ones." His voice dropped to a whisper. "We're not alone out here." The bridge fell silent as the crew processed this information. Humanity had debated for centuries whether other intelligent life existed. Now they had their answer. Hannah straightened her uniform jacket. "Send standard greeting messages on all frequencies. First contact protocol is now in effect." As the Pathfinder approached, they could see the massive space station. It resembled a spinning wheel with spokes connecting to a central hub. Ships of various designs moved around it like bees around a hive. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Min. Back at the observation post, Commander Tak received his orders. "Monitor but do not engage. A containment fleet has been dispatched. The Council is convening an emergency session." Tak felt a cold knot in his stomach. The humans were heading straight for Proxima Station, one of the busiest trading posts in this sector. Thousands of beings from dozens of species went about their business there, none of them aware of the quarantined species that had just escaped its cage. The Council had good reasons for the quarantine. Humans were unpredictable and dangerous. Their history was filled with war and violence, but also with kindness and creativity. This strange mix made them unstable in the Council's view. Most galactic species had evolved past such wild swings of behavior. The small human ship would arrive at the station soon. Panic would spread quickly. News of the breach would reach the Council worlds within hours. On the bridge of the Pathfinder, Hannah received the first response to their greeting. "Captain, we're getting a transmission," said Officer Sue. "It's not in any language I recognize, but the computer is attempting to translate." A voice crackled through the speakers, the words strange and halting. "Human vessel, you are in restricted space. Power down and await instructions. Do not approach the station." Hannah frowned. How do they know we're human? And why is this restricted space? Before anyone could answer, the view screen activated. The crew gasped as they saw the alien face for the first time. The being had blue-green skin and large pupilless eyes. Its mouth was small and round, opening and closing like a fish. "This is Captain Hannah Kim of the Earth vessel Pathfinder," Hannah said clearly. "We come in peace. We are on a scientific mission and mean no harm." The alien seemed agitated. "You should not be here. The quarantine has been breached. Stay where you are. Security forces are coming." "Quarantine? What quarantine?" Hannah asked, but the transmission cut off. June looked up from his console. "Captain, I'm detecting several ships moving toward us. They're powering up weapons systems." Hannah made a quick decision. "Back us off slowly. No sudden movements." The Pathfinder began to retreat, but the approaching ships accelerated. "They're not slowing down," warned June. "They'll be in firing range in 2 minutes." Dr. Min stood up. "Captain, I think I understand. They've been keeping us contained in our solar system. Earth has been under quarantine." The realization hit Hannah like a physical blow. Humanity had never been alone in the galaxy. They had been watched, judged, and imprisoned without their knowledge. "Prepare the quantum drive," she ordered. "We need to return to Earth immediately. They need to know what's happening." As the alien ships closed in, the Pathfinder's engines hummed to life. The stars seemed to bend around them as the quantum field activated. In that moment, everything changed. Humanity had broken its chains without even knowing they existed, and somewhere in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, an emergency session was about to begin. The lights on the command console blinked rapidly. Officer Da looked at them with worry in his eyes. He turned to Captain Hannah, who sat straight in her chair. "They're hailing us again," Da said. His fingers hovered over the controls, waiting for orders. The crew of the Pathfinder had been trying to understand what was happening. Just minutes ago, they had been Earth's heroes, the first humans to test a new kind of space travel. Now they were apparently fugitives who had broken some alien rule they never knew existed. Captain Hannah took a deep breath. "Open the channel," she said. Her voice was steady despite the fear she felt inside. The large screen at the front of the bridge lit up. The alien that appeared made the crew gasp. It had shiny scales that changed colors like oil on water. 6 eyes formed a circle around its head, all blinking at different times. It had no nose, just a small slit for a mouth. When it spoke, the words came out flat and strange, clearly run through some kind of translator. "Human vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Council Quarantine Directive 7293. Power down your systems and prepare for boarding." Hannah stood up. She had trained for first contact, but not like this. Not with aliens who already knew about humans and had apparently been keeping them trapped. "This is the first we're hearing of any quarantine," she said calmly. "We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations." The alien scales flashed red. "You were not meant to leave your system. The quarantine has contained humanity for 4 centuries. Your presence here is forbidden." Before Hannah could reply, Jim called out from his station. "Captain, 3 ships approaching fast. They're powering weapons." Outside the viewport, they could see Proxima Station. The massive structure was in chaos. Smaller ships were fleeing in all directions. The news was spreading. Humans had escaped Earth. "What's happening?" asked Dr. Min, watching the panic with wide eyes. "They're afraid of us," Hannah realized. "But why?" The alien on screen spoke again. "Remain where you are. Security forces will board your vessel. Any resistance will be met with force." The screen went dark. Far away on the Galactic Council homeworld, an emergency meeting had been called. The Grand Chamber held representatives from 200 species. They sat in rising circles around a central speaking area. High Counselor Ta stood in the center. His tall, thin body was wrapped in formal robes of deep blue. His 4 arms were raised to call for quiet. "The containment has failed," he announced. The chamber erupted in fearful chatter. "The humans have developed quantum entanglement technology centuries ahead of our predictions. They have breached the quarantine barrier." The room filled with shouts and questions. Many of the younger representatives had never dealt with human matters. They only knew the stories of the dangerous species locked away in the Sol system. "How did this happen?" called out one representative. "The barrier was supposed to be unbreakable." Tay's skin darkened with stress. "Their technology took an unexpected path. We must act swiftly before these humans contaminate our ordered society. I propose immediate military intervention." From the scholarly section, a smaller figure rose. Elder Jin of the archivist species looked ancient. His skin was pale and wrinkled, his 3 eyes cloudy with age. But his voice was strong. "Before we rush to military action, we should consult the historical records," Jin said. "Our ancestors may have acted hastily. The historical records suggest." "The records are clear enough," Tai interrupted sharply. "Humanity represents an unacceptable risk. They are violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. The quarantine was established for the safety of all galactic citizens." Elder Jin tried to speak again, but Tai raised all 4 hands. "We will vote now on the dispatch of the containment fleet. All in favor." Lights blinked across the chamber as representatives voted yes. Back at Proxima Station, the Pathfinder's crew watched as 3 large ships approached. They were angular and menacing, clearly built for war. "They're charging weapons," reported Jun. "We have 30 seconds before they're in range." Captain Hannah looked at her small crew. They were explorers, not soldiers. Their ship had no weapons. They had no defense against alien technology. "Options?" she asked. Dr. Min looked up from her console. "The quantum drive needs 10 minutes to recharge fully for a jump back to Earth, but I might be able to make a smaller jump, just enough to get us away from here." "Do it," Hannah ordered. Min's fingers flew over the controls. "I can't promise where we'll end up. The calculations are rough." "Anywhere is better than here," said Hannah. "Everyone, secure yourselves. This might be rough." The crew strapped into their seats as Dr. Min worked. Outside, the alien ships grew larger in the viewport. "They're locking weapons," Jun called out. "Drive ready," Min announced. "Jumping in 3, 2, 1. The stars outside seemed to stretch and bend. The Pathfinder shuddered violently. For a moment, reality itself seemed to warp around them. Then suddenly, quiet. The view screen showed different stars. The alien ships were gone. "Where are we?" Hannah asked, unstrapping herself. Min checked her readings. "An old mining sector, about 2 light years from Proxima. It looks abandoned." Day scanned the area. "No signs of pursuit. I think we lost them." The crew let out a collective breath. They had escaped, but to what? They were alone in an unknown part of space, surrounded by a galactic civilization that apparently feared them. "All right," Hannah said, gathering her thoughts. "We need a plan. First, we need to understand why Earth was quarantined. Second, we need to find allies if they exist. And third, we need to warn Earth. Something tells me those council ships will be heading there next." The crew nodded solemnly. What had started as a test flight had become something much more. They were now fugitives in a galaxy that had hidden itself from humanity for centuries. As the Pathfinder drifted silently among the asteroids of the abandoned mining field, its crew began to plan their next move. Humanity's first contact had gone badly, but it was only the beginning. News of the human escape spread like fire across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, beings of all shapes and sizes huddled around screens and holographic displays. They watched reports of the quarantine breach with a mix of fear and wonder. Most had never seen a human before, but they had heard stories for generations. Humans were wild and dangerous. Humans were unpredictable. Humans would destroy the careful balance of galactic society. On trading stations and colony worlds, parents pulled children close when the reports came on. "The quarantine breakers are loose," they whispered, "but the Council will protect us." In the great library on the archivist homeworld, Elder Jin moved slowly through the stacks of ancient data crystals. His three-fingered hands trembled slightly with age as he placed crystal after crystal into the reader. For 3 days, he had barely stopped to eat or rest. Something about the Council's emergency session had troubled him deeply. The fear seemed too strong, the response too harsh, and certain details about the original quarantine decision were strangely hard to access. Jin's assistant, a young archivist named Mun, brought him a steaming cup of stimulant. "Elder, you must rest," he said gently. Jin shook his head. "No time. The containment fleet launches tomorrow." He inserted another crystal, this one older than the rest. It was from the original quarantine period, over 400 years ago. The screen lit up with data, but large sections were blacked out. "More redactions," Jin muttered. "Why is so much of this classified?" Mun looked concerned. "Perhaps we should stop. These files are restricted for a reason." Jin's eyes narrowed. "Yes, but whose reason?" He pulled a small device from his pocket. It was illegal, a decryption tool he had acquired many years ago for his historical research. "Elder," Mun gasped, "using that on council records is forbidden." "Sometimes truth matters more than rules," Jin said as he connected the device to the reader. The screen flickered, and suddenly the blacked-out sections began to appear. Jin read quickly, his eyes growing wider. "By the ancestors," he whispered. It was all a lie. The documents showed the real reason for the quarantine. Humans weren't contained because they were violent. All species had violent periods in their history. They were contained because they innovated too quickly, developed technology in unpredictable ways that threatened the Council's careful control over galactic development. The Council feared them because they couldn't control them, Jin said. He turned to Mun. "We need to contact our allies immediately." Far away, in an abandoned mining outpost, Captain Hannah Kim and her crew had found unlikely friends. After their escape from Proxima Station, they had drifted for days, conserving power and trying to plan their next move. When the small research vessel approached, they had prepared for the worst. Instead, they met Dr. Sang and his team of scientific researchers, the first aliens who didn't seem terrified of them. Dr. Sang was short, with smooth gray skin and large black eyes. His species, the Nuri, were natural scientists with a deep curiosity about the universe. "Your arrival is the most exciting thing to happen in my lifetime," Dr. Sang told Hannah as they sat in his ship's small meeting room. "My team has studied Earth from afar for decades. The quarantine prevented direct contact, but we monitored your broadcasts. You speak our language very well," Hannah noted. Dr. Sang made a musical sound that might have been a laugh. "We learned from your entertainment transmissions. I particularly enjoyed your situation comedies from the late 20th century." The human crew exchanged glances. It was surreal to meet an alien who had watched Friends and Seinfeld. "But I don't understand why Earth was quarantined," Hannah said. "We're not perfect, but we're not the monsters the Council seems to think we are." Dr. Sang's large eyes blinked slowly. "Your species has been greatly misunderstood. The Council fears what it cannot control, and humans are unpredictable to them." He hesitated. "And I fear worse is coming. The Council has dispatched a fleet to your homeworld." Hannah's face paled. "A fleet? What do you mean?" "A containment force," Dr. Sang explained. "They will reinforce the quarantine with military vessels. Any human ships attempting to leave your system will be destroyed." Officer Su stood up angrily. "They can't do that. Earth doesn't even know about the wider galaxy yet. They'd done it before," Dr. Sang said quietly, "to other species who developed too quickly or in ways the Council didn't approve of." Hannah's mind raced. "We need to warn Earth. How long until this fleet arrives?" "Perhaps 2 weeks in your time measurement," Dr. Sang replied. "Is there any way to send a message?" Hannah asked. "Our communication systems can't reach that far." Dr. Sang hesitated, then nodded. "I have access to a quantum-encrypted communication array. It's not strictly legal for my research team to have such technology, but we found it useful in our work." Hope flickered in Hannah's eyes. "Can we use it to contact Earth?" "Yes, but we'll need to be careful. The Council monitors most communication channels." For the next several hours, Hannah and Dr. Sang worked together on the message. They needed to warn Earth but also provide proof of what was happening. They included data on Council ships, defense capabilities, and the location of the quarantine barrier. Finally, the message was ready. Dr. Sang activated his hidden transmitter and established a quantum link to Earth's most advanced research facility. "Will it get through?" Hannah asked anxiously. "If anyone on Earth has technology capable of receiving quantum signatures, they will get it," Dr. Sang assured her. As the message transmitted, a small alert appeared on Dr. Sang's console. He looked at it with concern. "What's wrong?" asked Hannah. "We may have been detected," he said quietly. "We should prepare to move quickly." Back on the Archivist homeworld, Elder Jin had gathered a small group of trusted allies from various species. They met in a secure room deep in the library archives. "The evidence is clear," Jin told them, displaying the decoded files. "The quarantine was never about protection. It was about control." A representative of the Nuri scientists nodded. "We've suspected this for years. The Council has suppressed technological development that doesn't follow their approved paths. The Council is fracturing over this human incident," added a tall, insect-like being from the Commerce Guilds. "Many worlds are questioning why such panic is necessary over a single small ship." Jin nodded gravely. "We must act quickly before the containment fleet reaches Earth. If humans are attacked without warning, they will respond with force. A war could begin that would tear the galaxy apart." As they discussed plans, Jin received an urgent message. He read it quickly, his face showing surprise. "What is it, Elder?" asked Mun. "It seems we are not alone in our concerns," Jin said. "I've just received word that a human captain has made contact with a Nuri research team. They are trying to warn their homeworld." For the first time in days, Jin felt hope. Perhaps it wasn't too late to prevent disaster. The Council was fracturing, and truth was beginning to emerge from centuries of secrets. Across the galaxy, the wheels of change had begun to turn. The message from space arrived at the Quantum Research Center in Seoul at 3:17 in the morning. The night shift operator nearly spilled his coffee when the system suddenly activated itself. The quantum receiver had never done that before. "Professor Hyun," he called urgently into his communicator. "You need to come down here immediately." Professor Hyun arrived within 20 minutes, his hair uncombed and his eyes still heavy with sleep. He had been studying the strange readings from the Pathfinder's disappearance for weeks. The experimental ship and its crew were presumed lost after they vanished during the quantum drive test. Hyun's eyes widened as he read the incoming data stream. This is impossible," he whispered. But the message continued, filling the screens with information that could only have come from Captain Hannah Kim. It described alien species, a galactic government called the Council, and most shockingly, a quarantine that had kept humanity isolated for centuries. "Get the president on the line," Hyun ordered. "Now." Within hours, leaders from every major nation had gathered for an emergency video conference. The message from the Pathfinder was clear. An alien fleet was coming to Earth, and they were not coming in peace. "This has to be some kind of hoax," said the French president, but her voice lacked conviction. "The quantum signature matches the Pathfinder exactly," Professor Gunn explained. "And the message contains technical details about their disappearance that no one could have invented." The Chinese premier's face was grim. "If this is true, we have 2 weeks before this alien fleet arrives. What can we possibly do in 2 weeks?" For a moment, silence filled the virtual meeting room. Then the Indian Prime Minister spoke. "We must unite. No more secrets, no more rivalry. Every nation must share their technology, their resources, their best minds." To everyone's surprise, there was no argument. Fear of the unknown was stronger than old grudges. Within hours, the United Earth Defense Council was formed. Scientists and engineers from around the world began working together without pause. Military secrets were revealed. Hidden technologies were shared. The quantum drive that had powered the Pathfinder was only the beginning of what humanity had been developing. Professor Hyun led a team of physicists in analyzing the technical data Captain Hana had sent about the alien ships. He worked day and night, sleeping only when his assistants insisted. 5 days into the preparations, he called for an emergency council meeting. "I believe we have found a weakness," he announced to the tired faces of world leaders. "Their weapon systems rely on conventional physics, but our quantum entanglement technology operates on principles they've never explored." "What does that mean in practical terms?" asked the American president. Hyun's tired face broke into a smile. "It means we can see them, but they cannot see us. We can attack from what will appear to them as nowhere." "Can we build enough defenses in time?" questioned the Russian leader. "If every nation contributes, yes," Hyun replied. "But we must work faster than ever before." The next 9 days were a blur of activity. Orbital platforms that had been designed for scientific research were quickly modified into defense stations. Every space-capable nation launched rockets carrying components of the quantum defense network. Meanwhile, the few experimental ships with quantum drive technology were prepared for combat. They weren't military vessels, but with the new modifications, they didn't need to be. 2 weeks after receiving the warning, Earth was as ready as it could be, and it was just in time. The alien fleet emerged at the edge of the solar system exactly as predicted. 50 vessels of various sizes approached Earth in tight formation. They moved with confidence, clearly expecting no significant resistance. Admiral Gill, commander of the Council Containment Fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship. He had led similar operations before, always with the same result: quick submission once the primitive species saw the overwhelming force arrayed against them. "No signs of advanced defense systems," reported his sensor officer. "Primitive satellites in orbit, some small space stations, nothing that could challenge us." Gill nodded. "Send the standard containment message. Inform them that they have violated quarantine regulations and must submit to Council authority immediately." The message was transmitted toward Earth in all major human languages. The fleet continued its approach, weapon systems ready, but not yet activated. The response was not what they expected. "Admiral, I'm detecting energy readings," the sensor officer called out suddenly. They're appearing out of nowhere. Around Earth, the quantum defense platforms shifted partially out of normal space, becoming visible to the Council ships. But before the alien fleet could react, several platforms vanished again, reappearing instantly behind the forward Council vessels. "Impossible," Gill whispered as the first energy pulses struck 3 of his ships. The vessels shuddered, their drive systems failing as quantum disruption spread through their systems. "Return fire," Gill ordered, but the targets had already disappeared again. From Earth, 5 small ships launched. They weren't warships by any definition, converted science vessels, hastily equipped with quantum disruptors. But as they engaged their drives, they phased in and out of conventional space, making them impossible to target. The Council weapons fired repeatedly, energy blasts passing harmlessly through empty space where human ships had been a split second before. "We cannot track them," shouted the weapons officer. "Their movement patterns make no sense." Gill watched in growing horror as ship after ship reported critical failures. The quantum disruption wasn't destroying his vessels, but it was rendering them completely helpless, unable to maneuver or fire weapons. After just 30 minutes of engagement, Gill had lost 17 ships. Not destroyed, but drifting helplessly in space. And still, not a single human vessel had been hit. "This is impossible," Gill said again. They were primitive. The reports said they were centuries from this level of technology. His second-in-command approached cautiously. "Admiral, we should retreat, regroup and report to the Council." Gill stared at the view screen showing the small blue planet. The quarantine had been in place for 400 years. How could they have advanced so quickly in secret? Unless the reports had been wrong all along. Signal the retreat, Jill ordered finally. All functional vessels are to fall back immediately. The containment fleet, or what remained of it, turned and fled from Earth. Behind them, human ships followed just far enough to ensure they were truly leaving. News of the defeat spread across the galaxy at quantum speed. The supposedly primitive humans had repelled the Council's elite containment fleet without a single casualty on either side. It was unprecedented. On dozens of worlds, beings gathered to discuss what this meant. Species that had long chafed under Council restrictions began to openly question its authority. If humans could resist, perhaps others could too. The balance of power that had stood for millennia began to shift, and it had all started with a single ship, the Pathfinder, that had accidentally broken through a barrier no one on Earth had even known existed. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was huge. It rose in circles like a giant bowl, with seats for representatives from hundreds of worlds. Today, every seat was filled. News had spread across the galaxy that humans would address the Council directly. Guards with shiny armor stood at every entrance. They looked nervous. Just 1 month ago, these same humans had defeated a Council fleet. No one knew what to expect. The huge doors at the end of the chamber opened. Captain Hannah Kim walked in, her head held high. She wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's new symbol, a circle with lines breaking through it, representing humanity breaking its quarantine. Walking beside her was Elder Jin of the Archivists, his old body straight and proud. Behind them came a group of aliens from many different species. All had chosen to stand with humanity against the Council. As they walked down the central aisle, whispers filled the room. Many had never seen a human before. Some seemed surprised that Hannah looked so normal. High Counselor Todd watched from his raised platform. His 4 arms were crossed over his chest, his face hard with anger. "You have no authority to address this body," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. Hannah stopped in the center of the room. She looked around at the hundreds of faces watching her. This moment would change history, not just for Earth but for the entire galaxy. "I come not to address your authority," she said clearly, "but to offer a new beginning." She took a small device from her pocket. When she pressed it, light filled the chamber. Suddenly, holographic images appeared in front of every representative. They showed documents, recordings, and data files, all evidence of the Council's true activities over centuries. Representatives gasped as they saw proof of corruption, of lies told to keep species afraid of each other, of technologies suppressed to maintain Council control. "For centuries, you've maintained power through fear and isolation," Hannah continued. Her voice was calm but strong. "But knowledge cannot be contained forever." Elder Jin stepped forward. "These records come from the official archives. They show that Earth was quarantined not because humans were dangerous, but because the Council feared their rapid development and creativity." Dr. Sang, the neuroscientist who had helped Hannah send the warning to Earth, added, "And humans are not the only species who have been contained and controlled. Many worlds have had their progress artificially limited." High Counselor Tay's skin darkened with rage. "These are lies. Security, remove these intruders immediately." But the guards didn't move. They had seen the evidence too. One by one, representatives began to stand, not to leave, but to show support for what was happening. The Traders Guild stands with Earth, called a representative. The Science Collective stands with Earth, called another. More and more joined in, their voices growing stronger. Species that had been rivals for generations found themselves united in their shock and anger at what had been hidden from them. Todd looked around desperately as his support vanished. "This is treason. The Council has maintained peace for thousands of years." "Peace through control is not true peace," said Hannah. "We offer something better. A galaxy where all species work together as equals, where knowledge is shared, not suppressed, where difference is celebrated, not feared." For 3 days, the representatives debated. News spread across the galaxy, and citizens on hundreds of worlds watched and waited. Would there be war? Would the old order collapse into chaos? In the end, the vote was decisive. The old council system would be dissolved. In its place would come a new organization, the Galactic Cooperative. Under the new system, no species would rule over others. Technology would be shared openly. Worlds that had been quarantined would be welcomed into galactic society with care and support. On the final day, Captain Hannah stood again in the center of the chamber. This time, she addressed not a hostile council, but a room full of hopeful allies. Humanity did not set out to change the galaxy, she said. We simply wanted to explore the stars. But in breaking free from our cage, we have helped others see the bars of their own. She looked around at the diverse faces watching her. We have much to learn from all of you, and perhaps you have things to learn from us too. Together, we can build something better than any of us could create alone. 1 month later, the first official delegation from Earth arrived at the newly renamed Cooperative Central Station. The massive space station that had once been the seat of council power was now a place of exchange and learning. Ships from dozens of worlds docked at the station. Scientists shared discoveries that had been kept secret for centuries. Artists performed for mixed audiences of many species. Food from 100 worlds was served in the Great Hall. Professor Hyun, who had led Earth's defense effort, now led a team of physicists from 6 different species. Together, they explored the possibilities of quantum technology the humans had discovered by accident. Dr. Sang and his research team visited Earth, the first aliens to officially set foot on the planet. They were welcomed with celebration and curiosity. And the Pathfinder, the small ship that had started it all, was retired to a place of honor in the new Galactic Museum. Captain Hannah had been offered many important positions in the new government, but she had chosen to return to what she loved best, exploration. She stood on the bridge of a new ship, the Unity, which carried a crew of both humans and aliens. On the view screen, a star system that no one had ever visited before glowed invitingly. Ready for our first official mission, she asked her diverse crew. As the Unity jumped to quantum space, a message flashed back to Earth. The quarantine is over. For everyone. Across the galaxy, species that had been kept apart by fear and lies began to meet, to learn, to grow together. Old wounds would take time to heal, and not every problem was solved overnight. But for the first time in thousands of years, the future was truly open to all. The age of containment had ended. The age of cooperation had begun.